Gieva Cordia. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. This is Fireside Chat 125, where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order of Bards, Ovids and Druids. And as is customary, I would begin with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon or Fud na Crinne. Gamara Shiakon in our Chili, agus in our Jirha. Ganari Lina Nakij Garmaka, Gamwich Wikas Jeev, Jeha Kwifdaka, Spirit Kwifdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the Holy Mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So let me see where you're all from today. Crouch End, Newcastle, Cheshire, UK, Ulster, Netherlands, Ballina, Killaloe, Southwest Wales, New York, Belgium, where else? Washington, West Cornwall, South London, West Yorkshire, Wyoming, the Land of the Dragon, wonderful, South Wales, beautiful, beautiful. It's lovely to see you all, and plenty from New York, busy London, Orkney, very good. It's far away. I was there, actually, was it this time last year, at the Orkney Storytelling Festival. It was wonderful. New Jersey, Scotland, Louisiana, Switzerland. Oh, Jens, how are you? Long time no see. Hertfordshire, Wexford, Worcestershire, North Carolina Mountains, Gloucestershire, Wexford. Did I say that? Wexford, Portugal. Wonderful to see you all. Anyway, it's interesting somebody's from Gloucester, because we are going to Gloucestershire tonight. We're going to Stroud, and I'd like to introduce my guest this evening is JJ Middleway. And JJ, you are so welcome.
Thank you, Eimear. That's really lovely. Lovely to join you. And yeah, I love that prayer by John O'Donoghue. I love his stuff generally. May an unexpected serenity surprise you. He's got this beautiful way with words.
Isn't it? And I started doing that, when the war in Ukraine started, thinking that, maybe at some point it'll be over soon. And now we're dealing, with what's happening in Israel and in Palestine, in Gaza, and how sad it is that there's still so much violence and so much pain. And anyway, that we just...
Yeah, I love the power of prayer. And I wonder, can I request we start with the Druids' prayer together? Would that be okay?
Well, only one of us can say it. So...
Okay, wait, may I say it? May I offer it as a...
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Grant, O Goddess, thy protection, and in protection strength, and in strength understanding, and in understanding knowledge, and in knowledge the knowledge of justice, and in the knowledge of justice the love of it, and in the love of it the love of all existences, and in the love of all existences the love of God, the Goddess, and all goodness. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful prayer.
It is.
There's been a request that I say it in Irish, so I'm going to do it.
Oh, great. Beautiful. Yeah, perfect.
Thanks, Pat. Tuaidúna Ulspert the chusant, agus I gusant neart, agus I neart tishkent, agus I dishkent olas, agus in olas an kirt, agus in olas an kirt an grá faoi, agus in grá faoi an grá don a bahir fad, agus in grá don a bahir fad an grá the Ulspert agus gach mas wanenesh. Go raibh.
Perfect. Yeah. And again, those words come back. May an unexpected serenity surprise you. And the prayer, I find that prayer has that power of unexpected serenity.
Well, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's a beautiful blessing and a beautiful wish for anybody. Yes.
Yeah. And to put it out into the world, as you say, at this fraught time. So yeah, offered out for all.
Absolutely.
The love of all existences. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Wonderful.
So tell us, you're in Stroud, Gloucestershire. So tell us about your landscape.
Okay. Well, you say I'm in Stroud, Gloucestershire. It's a base, and this is where I live. But I haven't been here much lately, and I'm off again tomorrow. But that's beside that. I'm in the Slad Valley, which is one of 5 valleys that runs from Stroud. It's called the 5 Valleys, the land of the 5 valleys. And Slad Valley is one of those. Laurie Lee country, for anyone who knows Cider with Rosie. It's a very beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful of the 5, but I would, because I'm in it. I'm on the edge of Stroud. Up the road is this beautiful pub, the old Woolpack, where Laurie Lee was resident. But the landscape is one of rolling hills and streams. I'm lucky I've got Slad Brook at the bottom of the garden, a stream, which can turn into a flood at sometimes, and floods 1/3 of the garden. I'm on a steep slope. The doctors in Stroud, they kind of know people who live in Stroud because their hearts are exercised by all the hills. A lot of hills. Swift's Hill is just up the valley. That's one of my favourites.
Okay.
I was up there the other day gathering hawthorn berries to make a tincture.
Beautiful.
It's absolutely loaded with hawthorn this year. Absolutely, like the trees are like they're on fire. It really is quite amazing. And the rose hips, similar, just an abundance of fruits. Now, in the old folklore, that denoted the possibility of a harsh winter. So we'll see what comes, but it's a very abundant season.
Yeah, I have really, really fat hawberries. I do think there are patterns. I was listening to a herbalist talk. You get mast ears with, you get them with acorns and hazels, and you also get them with hawthorn, because it was a few years ago. The last mast, I thought, oh, we're going to have a really bad winter, and in fact, we didn't. So who knows?
No, who knows? And by way of contrast, the apple tree. I've got 5 plum trees, and there's 5 plum trees. We got an apple tree as well. The apple tree had 1 apple on it this year, and most years that's absolutely flowing, hanging deep with apples. Just 1, and there were plums, not masses, but they're beautiful. Yes, there were a good few, but not hordes of them. So yes, what else can I say about the landscape? Oh, I know what I'd say about this landscape. Historically, this valley, it was recognized as a non-conformist part of the world, partly because it was a little difficult to get to, perhaps. But this valley was known for its its pagan ways. No, that's actually not right. It was known. It was off limits to some of the parochial. The parochial sort of normals, and there's a lot of that pattern is repeated in Stroud. It's quite unconventional, quite a lot of diversity of people, and a lot of artists, a lot of musicians. But up the valley was renowned in a couple of centuries ago, 2 or 3, 1700s, 1800s. It was renowned for its being off limits. Kind of wild, a bit wild, but that's the way today. But the landscape is very wooded, and you can find peace, and you can rapidly find places where there aren't any habitations. Up the valley, if I go a couple of miles up the valley, it's completely. It's all relative. In terms of this land, it's pretty quiet. Yeah.
Okay. Just Owen de Vardoon says, a delight, heavy and fat hawthorn berries. Oh, I'm adoring this discussion, and he's a herbalist. And what a hard winter means is multiple. And this is it may not always be just the weather. And that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and you know, you're talking about the Seven Valleys. I was
Five.
five. I was at the Glens Storytelling Festival in Antrim at the weekend, and they've 9 glens,
Mm.
and they're absolutely incredible. Just, and I went to visit in Glen Arif, one of the glens. Somebody took me to it to see a hawthorn ishkiach, you know, a solitary tree with stones up, possibly on a barrow, and it was just absolutely magical because you're in a glen and it's you know you can almost touch the mountains outside. Just beautiful. So I'm just thinking of your 5 valleys. How
well, you talked about my landscape, and that is my immediate landscape, but increasingly in later life especially, I found that my landscape is the whole of these islands. I mean, I've been over to Ireland several times, and Wales, I've just not long back, I was in Wales 2 weeks ago. I was in Northumberland in the north of England. Then I've been in Scotland in the borders, and I'm just talking about hawthorns and rosehips. I mean, I've gathered some hawthorns at the grave of Merlin in Scotland and brought them back and added them to the tincture. So that's a Merlin tincture of hawthorn for the heart. And I've gathered some rosehips from Rosslyn Chapel, just outside Edinburgh, just a few days ago. And I've added those to the rosehip tincture. So my sense is, singing the lands. That's what I do. And well, actually, in the moment, because that's spontaneous. I believe I belong to the earth. I belong. May my life be a song. May my song feed the earth. There you are. There you have it in a way. To the earth I belong, and the earth, and may my life be a song.
So you mentioned you were on a farm today, and I'm really interested, and I bet our viewers will be interested in you as a farmer.
Well, a farmer, no self-respecting farmer would class me as a farmer. We're a group of growers, which is a different kettle of fish.
I love that, a grower. Yeah,
we're growers, and there's a farm up the valley, not far away, about a mile, less than that actually. I can walk to it over the stream, but there's a group of 15 of us as a co-op. We work as a cooperative, and we do a day a week or 2-3. We do a few hours a week each, and then we have work days during the year, and we share the produce. So earlier, I've been up twice this week, partly to make up for the times I've been away, because I've been away for 3 weeks. But on Tuesday, we were gathering. Well, had the privilege of harvesting the squash. There were dozens and dozens of different squash. It's abundant it was fabulous. It's a great time of year. And today we were clearing out one of the big polytunnels and preparing it with sowing green manure so it's covered for the winter. So there's 3 aspects to that for me. It's soil, soul, and social. So it's not just getting your hands in the soil and which is really healthy and healing and grounding. I really welcome it after the travel. But there's that soulfulness. It's a real soulful place, and it really enriches the soul through working the soil. And then there's the social element. So we split it. We're not all up there together. There were 6 of us there, 7 of us today, and we have a laugh and share news, and people can cry on each other's shoulders. Somebody's partner's really ill, so we can support each other. So it's quite a rich growing group, but in the fuller sense, not just veg. And I've got a boot full of veg to give out tomorrow. So
oh, lovely. No, that's wonderful. So how many growers are there in total in your co-op?
In the group, there's 17 of us, so it's a fair number. But we've got 2 big polytunnels, 2 small ones, a greenhouse, and a fair bit of land as well. As much as we can work. And we're pretty self-sufficient. Well, we get most of our veg. We have to supplement it a little bit, but we get the majority. We get a good bulk of our veg that way. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And Beer says, what great blessings there are in harvest time. I like to sing while harvesting too.
So do we.
And Philosophical Phoenix says, JJ's description of the land sounds like a true paradise.
Yeah, I think I'm very blessed. I feel very fortunate. Yes.
Oh. Now, Sean Clancy, he's been a guest on the pod on here. I'd love to know how you managed to get the growing group to come together. Would love to try something similar. So how did you do it?
Well, it was already in existence. I've been with it for maybe 12 years, 13 years.
Ah, okay. It's a long time.
It was already in existence. So so we were lucky. We're very fortunate that Sarah and Paul, who run the farm, bless them, it's an small organic farm, and they've got cattle and sheep and horses, but they're very, let's say they're very benevolent and supportive. They're members of it too. So they're members, but they're also providers of the land. But they see themselves very much as stewards of the land. They're not grasping, take. They're kind of share it and shake. I don't know. share it and enjoy the benefits of the group. So, but I mean, yeah, if you can find the land, I guess that's the key, isn't it? But having said that, I know of 3 or 4 other similar groups within walking distance. I mean, there's 2 across the valley of different growers groups. One of the, some of them get an allotment and they do it that way, or 2 allotments, and then there's another one. In fact, there's 2 more up the valley. There's a no dig group. We're no dig as well, but they started off no dig. I've lost you, Eimear. Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, you're back.
Just describe what the no dig is, because I've just been
no dig.
In bed the other
day. It was really interesting because the group was split on whether we tried no dig a couple of years ago, but there's a pioneer for the no dig method up the valley, and we went and saw a guy from Oxford sort of pioneered it, the science of it, but then they put it into practice. Basically, the less you disturb the roots and the microorganisms, the more fruitful it can be, more natural. We tend to sort of deep plow the earth, but there's a lot to be said for letting nature work letting nature be. And we minimize the dig. So we have paths of wood chip in the middle, between the beds, and they act as breeding grounds for the microorganisms, the mitochondria. What is it? Yeah, the fibers. Anyway, it's very rich, and we also try and keep the ground covered in winter. So my dad was a keen allotment man, but all the methods some of those traditional methods, well, we're trying others, put it that way, no dig, minimal dig, keep the ground covered. Yeah. Anyway, we get a good lot of veg either way, to be honest.
Yeah. You've got a lot of help here, people answering mycelium. That's what the mycelium.
Mycelium was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
But we used to do no dig, and it was just topping it with compost, our own compost, just putting it on it and sowing it in that. Okay. And I was just thinking of that the other day, and I thought I need to start doing that again. I've kind of got out of because there's a few things I want to plant. And Pat Booker wants to know, can you do spuds with no dig?
Yeah, definitely.
There's the lazy beds. So that's just you dig and you turn it over and you plant them there. That's a little bit of taking the sod off and turning it over. That would have been an old method here, the lazy bed. And Sean,
we did dig a trench. Sorry, go on.
You dig a trench, yeah. And Sean Clancy says he did the no dig except with carrots. It worked well, but not with carrots. So, but yeah.
Oh, no, that's true. You need a good tilth with carrots. You need a fine tilth. Yeah. Yeah.
I know. It's great to be almost self-sufficient in vegetables. I'm very impressed. But of course, the key. I mean, I have a tunnel here that I've offered it to people, and people say they take it and then they don't. Just because I can't manage it all myself, and you've seen it.
Yes,
so
it's
lovely to have you know, a cooperative of people working together the land.
That's
Not left to
strong.
one person. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's too much. Actually, I'm lucky. I rent this place, but I've got a huge garden. Goes down to, you know, sort of, you wouldn't know from the street is fairly nondescript, ordinary. You come down loads of steps and the valley opens up like into Narnia, with all the trees and the stream. But I tried growing stuff here, but the deer come across the stream and they eat everything. So I love the deer, but I don't love the fact they demolish any harvest.
Yeah, it's a pity, yes. And of course they're like a bit like goats, aren't they? With the structure, what they can eat. Yeah,
they can.
So, you are a member of the Dabuni Grove.
I am. Yes, indeed. Have been for many years. So the Dabuni Grove is based in Bristol, which is about 3/4 of an hour, 50 minutes south of where I live. I was fortunate to be in the very early days. I think there is a lovely story, and I don't think the others involved, I don't believe they'll mind me telling this story, because it's more common knowledge these days. So it was autumn equinox 1994, which is best part of 30 years ago. Another year and it will be. And I'd never been to an active, you know, group of Druids meeting. I'd been following Druidry, but not with others. So I found out from the office where there was local grove, and the nearest at the time was Bristol. So I arranged to go down, autumn equinox, and we went to celebrate. I showed up, and two other people, just like me, who had never been to such a gathering, they also showed up. They'd become lifelong friends. I'd never met them before. They'd never been to a Druid Grove, just like me. Who were those people? One of them was Adrian Rook, as good a friend as you'll get, and another dear and treasured friend, Ronald Hutton.
Yeah.
And we're very good and dear friends, and we'd never met each other. And so that's the Dabuni. That's one aspect. The Dabuni, it wasn't called Dabuni then, it was called the Silurian Grove.
Okay.
Silurian was more South Wales, because it had started with two people from South Wales and two people from Bristol a couple of years before I joined. But it moved to Bristol and we adopted a new name. It nearly became Rosmerta Grove, but we opted for Dabuni, which was the tribe of that area, the old pre-Roman tribe. It's very strong. I mean, it's now Ronald and Anna hold the space. They're amazing. They not just a ceremony, a celebration, and a gathering for each of the eightfold wheel of the year, but also a bardic, an ovate, and a druid grove in the middle of in between those. So that's a lot of space to hold. It's a lovely, it's a very, very lovely grove, and it's adapted and it changes. People come and go, and we're the old timers now. We weren't when we joined. We were quite, yeah. We're a lot younger.
And I always associate you with Stanton Drew, and I've never been. And I just see photographs of you and Adrian or whatever at ceremonies, but I've never actually been there.
Stanton Drew is very beautiful stone circle. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful. Access is difficult, which is one of the reasons, you know, parking's a bit of a problem, but it's comparable. I think is it second largest to after Avebury in the country. Yeah, it's of that scale, and it's got a moon circle and the large circle. It was less known. It's becoming more known, but the Dabuni Grove started holding. Some of the members of Dabuni started holding ceremony there. I used to go some of the time, but couldn't go all the time. Adrian took it on, actually. Fair play to Adrian. Because it's his local, he lives pretty near, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour away. So there are ceremonies there on, Yeah, four a year. Well, there's 8 a year, but 4 which Adrian coordinates, bless him, and which I'm often part of and supportive of and to play a part. So that's, yeah, it's linked to Dabuni, and it's a very beautiful stone circle.
Francis Joy from Finland says, I was blessed to be initiated into both Bardic and Ovate grades in Dabuni with JJ, Adrian and Ronald at the helm.
I remember it well. It was a long time ago, Francis, but fond memories. And I want to thank you. You took me to an ancient yew tree near Bath, which always lives in my memory, which you knew of at that time, near Bath Eastern, I think. Anyway, you've been in Finland a long time, but still remember you and know you well.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, okay, so how did you find Druidry, JJ?
Or how did Druidry find me?
Oh, well,
okay.
How did you find each other?
Going right, I mean, it goes right back. In a way, I've always been a Druid, but I didn't know it. I put it that way. I didn't have a name for it. I've always felt very close to the mystical. I've always felt very close to other realms.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd say I had the benefit of an atheist father and a Catholic mother. Mm-hmm. I say that because my dad was an out-and-out atheist, no holds barred atheist, and my mum was a no holds barred Catholic. But here's the beauty: they loved each other. They really loved each other, so that none of that mattered. It all fell away. And they both loved me. I was really lucky man, lucky boy. So I was brought up Catholic till I was 13. But here's the thing: I haven't shared this widely, but more recently I have shared this, and I'll share this. I think, and this does relate to my Druidry as well. As a child, when I was born, both my parents were immigrants. I mean, you could. My dad was from Scotland. You can say that wasn't, but we were in central Birmingham. My mum was from the Alps, from Austria. Heidi was her name, and she couldn't speak any English at that time. When they met, and they fell in love and married, and I was born, but they didn't have pretty much anywhere to live. They were in what you call a tenement block with, a lot of rooms, different people in the house, an old house in the centre of Birmingham in Handsworth, very multicultural area. And being a baby, I cried a lot, like babies do. But in that environment, I woke other people up who were pretty cheesed off with that if they had to work. And one of them was not very well and attacked my mum and thinking that she was harming me. She wasn't harming me, but babies cry. But my mum was scared, and to survive. Now, I'm not recommending this to anyone at home, folks, but this is what happened. And there was a strange benefit. It's unusual. In order to survive, my mum stopped me from crying by smothering me at night, taking me under and over. She took me, she suffocated me. she smothered me to stop me crying. Now, people might be horrified at that, but you know what's come to me over the years? I used to think I was born with that mystical connection. I have a sense that she gave me a gift in a strange way, like a shamanic initiation. She repeatedly took me to the other world, and I've always been at ease in that realm, like a bridge. And I kind of know that place, and I think that had a bearing on it. Like I say, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone, but I think there was some strange gift in it. And we talked about it, and she was horrible. She was really full of shame and guilt, but actually I think she did me a favor. That's my sense. Anyway, that's one early thing to do with my Druidry. Wow. But more than, did you want to say something, Eimear?
No, you don't remember that because obviously you were a very, very young baby.
Strangely enough, it's my earliest memory because it was so dramatic, you could say. I have the sense of the sensation And I don't have it as a trauma. At least that's my sense. Is not. It's more of a. It's a sense of the beingness of it. I don't remember it as a trauma. I just remember the feeling of it and where it took me. And
so it wasn't frightening.
No.
Wow.
I wonder if it wasn't. I mean, my mum loved me to bits. She's genuinely, and I think that love came through. I don't know. I mean, we're all story, aren't we? All of us. But my sense is she loved me, and I didn't feel abused or traumatized by it.
Wow.
That's weird, I know, but
that's fascinating.
Anyway, another aspect then of this Druid journey. My dad was an atheist, and he used to slander the Catholic Church, and he couldn't stand that whole side of things. But here's the thing: he professed no belief, but he was, as I look back, he was a Druid. I mean, he used to work in the earth, and blackbirds used to come and sit on his hand. I'm not joking. Your blackbirds would be on his arm. That's a memory I have. He had a couple of blackbirds. They'd feed from his hand. And he was, he wouldn't accept that. He'd hate that term, and he'd hate anything that smacked of any faith, religion, or spirituality. That wasn't him at all. He was a down-to-earth sort of, whatever. He was a good man. And then, so I rejected Catholicism at 13. So I'll skip out. I mean, this doesn't have to be too long a story, but I strongly rejected Catholicism at 13. It didn't meet my soul needs or my spirituality. And a lot of that was, at the time, it didn't feel like it honored the feminine. I mean, I know Mary figures prominently, but not it's a very subservient way in the Catholic Church. And that didn't sit at all well with me, and other aspects as well. I mean, anyone who's known the Catholic sort of path, I mean, there's plenty to deride and to sort of criticize, but there are benefits as well, strangely enough. The smells and the bells have lived with me. The smells, the incense, and the ritual, that went into my blood and into my bones and lives with me and is important. So it wasn't all negative by any means.
Same here.
And I didn't suffer particularly in the Catholic Church, like some of, one or two of my relatives did, and others have. But I was pretty lucky. But nonetheless, I rejected it. I couldn't say the word God for a good decade, 15 years. I couldn't say that word. It was a blasphemous word for me. I'm completely at ease with it now. But actually, at this point, can I just share this poem I wrote while I was looking for my Druidry? Probably a bit later. I'm not a Christian, yet Christ is all around. I'm not a Buddhist, yet Buddha is my ground. I'm not a Muslim, yet Allah's here in all I see. I'm not a Hindu, yet Krishna speaks to me. I'm not an atheist, yet nothingness counts too. I walk the path of Yahweh, although I'm not a Jew. None of these and all of these and more. If one excludes the others, love's truth goes out the door. Come build a mighty rainbow, embracing all beliefs and creeds. Form something even greater than our wildest dreams exceed. Dream this mighty rainbow, encircling the earth. Sacrifice our dogma, celebrate rebirth. So I wrote that before I came to Obod, but that was an indication of where I was. Anyway, I went off into hippiedom, and I didn't see that at the time as a spirituality, but it does have, peace and love, man, all that. There's good aspects to all that. And as a teenager in early 20s, the hippie vibe resonated and still does with me. But then I went looking for spirituality more in Buddhism, particularly strong links with Buddhism. I think many aspects of Buddhism are like an Eastern Druidry for me, and many aspects of Druidry I like Western Buddhism for me. And there's differences, big difference. But they're both, the key to both for me is that lack of dogma. They both don't have dogma. And that's really important for me. So I was looking Buddhism, then shamanism, Sufism, silly foolism. And I put that last one in because that's quite a key part of the journey, and quite prayerfulness and playfulness. What do we say in Druidry? Reverence and mirth.
Yes.
If there isn't, each day in the living of it should be an act of discipline, punctuated essentially by acts of foolishness and pure playfulness. It's that balance. It's kind of, I think we need them. We need the both of those. And in my Druidry with ceremony, it's not all sanctum doesn't work. And if it's all too superficial and laughter and nothing else, then that doesn't work either. But put them together and this potent magic can burst forth. So I'll just finish the story of how I came to Druidry. And I'm nearly there. So having explored all those, and somewhere in there I wrote that poem, and I was thinking, well, none of these quite fit. There's aspects of all of those. And then I thought, well, I'll develop my own kind of mishmash of all of those. And then I came across, lo and behold, Obod. And like many people, it's like coming home. It kind of fit, it ticked the boxes, and Druidry is, it's who I am. This reflects who I am.
Yeah, the
oak, yeah. And trees. And so I came home and I met lots of lovely people. It's fair to say, as I look back, it changed my life significantly. Not all of it in an easy way by any means, but necessarily so. Yeah, for the right reasons, but what I needed, but not necessarily what I wanted, if you know what I mean.
How often is that?
How often is that? Yeah. So,
go on, continue.
Well, just to conclude, where does that take it? Yeah, and so Buddhism particularly, and others, Sufism, all of those are still in the mix. But Druidry is my kind of core. Although even there, sometimes I'm loath to put any badge or label to it, because in a way, poetry, the word poet or the word druid, as part of it is what's the word? It's a post. It's for when you're dead, if at all. I've forgotten the word. Someone else help me out again.
Yes,
the point is, pardon?
Your epithet.
No. There's I'll remember.
Epitaph.
No, that's not the word I'm looking for. It doesn't matter. The point is, sometimes those words are so loaded for people. Pagan, druid, can conjure up such baggage for others that sometimes it's best to just say, I guess, well, what does Druidry come down to? The path of love, like any true path. It comes down to the path of love, and Druidry has at its heart that very intent and vision and embodied truth. So yeah. Anyway, I could go on forever. That's the answer to your question for now, Eimear.
Thank you. So Anne says, JJ, I'm struck by how much your thoughtful poem has parallels in the Unitarian Universalist spiritual tradition and interfaith tradition, no dogma, that actually fits very well with Druidry. And it's lovely because people have just said your poem is beautiful. And I want to come back to your story, because Gabriella says, in the Orthodox Church, a child is baptized by being sunk in a water cauldron 3 times while being held by the nose. It's controversial, yet as symbolism, it marks a disconnection from the past and a fresh start in this world. And it's really interesting. And then Philosophical says, wow, I have an eerily similar earliest memory of my mother nearly drowning me as a toddler. I passed out and still remember the dreams, which made me homesick for a place that wasn't real. So you're not alone in that experience, and I think that's really, really interesting. Homesick for a place that isn't real, and that a disconnection from the past and start. I mean, that wasn't your mother's intention, but
no.
That And Sarah says, trauma is not what happens to you, it's what happens in you. And that is really interesting because, you know, we can all have the same experience and we react differently. Some are traumatized and some are not. Some are strengthened maybe. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's truly fascinating. And yeah, but who knows? But there's that sense of the other, that sense of otherness, that sense of the mystical, that seeing the oneness in everything. That art thou, tat tvam asi in Sanskrit, that art thou. It kind of brings that, it takes it from an idea into an embodied reality. That's my sense. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
So how has Druidry supported you then in your life?
Well, I could say by taking away everything. The opposite, by doing the opposite. I'm joking at one level, and there's truth in it. In one way, yes, it fully supports me, but it's done that in a funny way by stripping me of all that I thought I was, which is a pretty hairy ride at times. Here, okay, I'll draw on. This is an ancient poem that answers the question in a funny way. It might not resonate. Yeah, some people might wonder what I'm on about. This was written several hundred years ago.
By you?
No, not by me, but it could have been. This is the point. The true poetry resonates in a way that you think, yeah, I'd love to have written that, or it speaks to the same place. Whoever wrote it kind of went through similar territories. The stakes are high for real prayer. The stakes are high for real prayer. You must gamble yourself and be willing to lose. When you have done this, and the self shakes off what you believed yourself to be, then no prayer remains, only a sparkle in the eyes. Knower and known are one. If you penetrate the center of time and space, you can bypass the addictions of the world. You can become the world yourself. But what that, in one line, what that doesn't really go into depth with, you shake off what you believed yourself to be, but that can take many years, and it can involve a whole host of difficult challenges, and here be dragon territory sort of thing. I mean, so Druidry does support my life. I'll tell you how it supports my life. I turn to the trees. The trees. I mean, gosh, there's so much. I could reflect on the period of my life, the ovate period, when I was on a pilgrimage in the mid-90s around the UK, exploring all the ancient yew trees that I kind of identified, and so 7.
Lovely.
And that really, well, that turned into more than a pilgrimage. That turned into a soul journey. This illustrate, maybe it does illustrate the point, because it's the really the difficult, but the beauty that comes out of that. So in 1997, I went back to my favorite yew tree. I'd been to a whole host of them. In fact, I've just come back from one of them in Fortingall, or near Fort. I was near Fortingall, but that wasn't the one I went to. I went to my favorite one in Wales, which was hollow, and which I'd established a really intimate relationship with by singing an Arwen in there. Actually, I sang 3 Arwens when I first went in, and this incredible, well, just a weird and wonderful resonance between the tree and I, as if the tree hadn't heard that for many hundreds or thousands. It was supposedly a 4,000-year-old tree, but even if it's only 2,000, that's a lot of years for a tree. Anyway, I went back to that tree, and I was at a difficult time in my life trying to explore. I didn't realize it fully. My soul took me there. My soul took me there, but it cost me dear in other ways in life, but not ultimately. Anyway, I went in the tree for 3 days and 3 nights without food and without water. It's another one I wouldn't recommend at home, but I was in the tree for 3 days, 72 hours, which seemed like many years in a funny way, because it's so long when there's no food, no interaction, and no punctuation of the day with a cup of tea or even a glass of water. So I was in the tree for 72 hours. And that was a journey in itself, but that wasn't the main learning. Although in the last 18, 20 hours, I was sort of, yeah, I had a bit feverish. I wasn't, yeah, I was in a different place. That's a better way of putting it. Not so much ill as just an unusual place. But I came out of the tree at the end of that time, and I'd remembered that down the lane there was a spring, and I walked down the lane to the spring, cupped my hands, and obviously, yeah, no water for all that time. And this was the magical revelation. As I drank that water, it was like drinking the fruit of life, the ambrosia of life, the nectar of life. It was like drinking liquid diamonds. It was alive. It's just the most precious, beautiful thing going. Water, just water from a spring water. And it kind of, it brought me, I just can remember that sense and that whole incredible awakening to the power of water through not having had it. And so that was the you. Where was I? The power, the teachings of trees. So the oak is where, yeah, and the hawthorn is very much where I am now as well. But the oak, take the oak for example. I'm much older these days. I'm in my eldership in a way at this stage, or in an oldership at least, older days. Eldership is a different business or different quality. But I'd like to believe that when I die, I will have given myself away like an oak tree does each year, sowing its seed and shedding its acorns without thought of loss, without any thought of loss, because it's not a loss, it's like adding to future life. I'm quoting somebody who wrote these words, but it's the tree's way of being, firmly rooted and spilling out its treasures on the wind. Well, the oak tree is the most fascinating tree because it sheds so many gifts in its life. It completely gives itself away. We lost. Oh, there we're back.
Yeah.
I lost connection for 2 seconds. I'm back. It hosts, I think, 512 species. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just relative, as opposed to a conifer, something like 11 or 12. So, and the oak thrives by giving itself away. And I think that's the Druid key to life. Give oneself away. Mudita, the Sanskrit word. Your joy is my joy. That's a great. I mean, it's a lovely way to live a life. I'd recommend it highly. Mudita, your joy is my joy. It's true. When you're happy, if you're happy, it's like resonance. It's like that figure of 8, the infinity thing. In creating joy, it comes back, and then it's like waves of reciprocal joy. And with joy, everything becomes holy. It's true.
It's true. Pat says, I'm remembering the lyrics from Oak off the Spell Songs album. 300 years to grow, 300 years alive, 300 years to die, 900 years alive. JJ, you have a while to go yet. That's from Pat Booker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I'm planted beneath the tree.
Francis wants to know, do you remember your work in the cave in Bath Eastern and the guided journey you set up for the tribe members?
Yeah, I'd forgotten about it, but thank you, Francis. Yes, I do remember now. Gosh, yeah, what times. Powerful times. Thank you for that memory. I'd forgotten. Wow. Thank you.
So you've mentioned, challenges. So what is the greatest challenge you've had that that you've overcome that you'd be happy to share?
Well, it's the self, really, isn't it? As it is for all of us. But Okay. So I was blessed with a very loving upbringing. So I didn't have the trauma that a lot of people have in their early life. You know, I was loved, which is unusual. I didn't know that. I thought it was normal. And I kind of had to contrive my own initiation to, which involves loss, I think, or at least a leavening or a leveling or a tempering of the ego and the self in some way. Okay, what's coming up? I'll share. In my early 40s, I was on the tube in London. Normal. I didn't go to London much, and I wasn't that familiar with the tube. But I was on the tube. It wasn't new to me, but it wasn't my normal environment. But I knew it well enough. A work day, and this has never happened before, and it's never happened since. But it's in Druid circles, people will get it. I had had a strange experience. I had a voice come to me. Whatever it was very real, very potent, very present. And it asked me 3 questions. It said, do you want to fulfill your destiny? I mean, this sounds crazy, but it's true. Do you want to fulfill your destiny? So I'm sat there and I'm thinking, what the hell's this? What's going on? And I wasn't in an abnormal or, let's say, mentally compromised state. I was fairly stable as far as I'm aware. Others might have a different opinion, but that's my own take at the time. That was the first question, and I said yes. That wasn't so difficult. Who wouldn't want to answer yes? So the second question was, are you prepared to lose everything? Well, that made me sit up. Are you prepared to lose everything? I hesitated at that one, and I said, yes. Third question. And I'm sitting in a crowded train, and there's people standing around as well. And the third question made me cry. It was the same question, but in a completely different voice. It said, are you prepared to lose everything without any doubt, you know? And it took me a few seconds, and I realized the enormity of what I was saying, and I said yes. And that's what came to pass. Not immediately. That is what came to pass. And it's too long. I can give you the gist of the story.
That would be interesting, because what was everything? I mean, you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah. Obviously, in reality, I didn't lose everything, because for one, I'm still here, and I've still got beautiful children in my life and beautiful people. But it felt like that it did. Yes, it felt like that. What happened over several years? I call it the maiden mother crone time. So this is 12 to 15 to 20 years ago. I think, yes, if we start, actually it started with the episode in the yew tree. So that's longer ago, but it came to a head 10 years later. I lost, well, of my 4 children, but one daughter went out she was looking for her spiritual side. She was quite a rational person, actually. She was a scientist. She was a zoologist, but she determined that she wanted to explore more of the spirituality. Her words were, Dad, I want to look at more of the territory. Well, she didn't use these words, more of the sort of thing you get involved in. She realized that was a different side of life. And so she took herself off. Well, she jumped in the deep end. I told her to learn to swim before she jumped in the deep end. But you can't, a parent can't stop the children learning the lessons they need to learn, even though it's painful as hell to watch or experience. Anyway, she went out. She did a Vipassana retreat here in the UK for 2 weeks. even that, I've never done that. It's too severe for me. I don't find the need to go. The meditation for me is fairly accessible, and it's not. It doesn't have to be a penance.
Yeah.
But I don't need to go into that territory to know that place. I think that comes back to the early childhood thing. So she went to Nepal, to the birthplace of Buddha, to Lumbini, to a monastery. And the long and the short of it, and it's a long tale, not for now. I should write a book about it. But she spent 2 months in silent retreat, and it blew her mind, literally. And some people say, oh, that's a lot of people, oh, that's a shamanic awakening. Well, it can be, and you can go mad as well.
Yeah.
She's okay. Where are we? 12 years later, she's in a secure mental institution. That wasn't the end. I mean, that was the start of a journey, because I went out to look for her. Yeah.
Heartbreaking. Yeah,
it was heartbreaking. I went. She got a message through in a moment of lucidity in amongst it all. She said, "Dad," I mean, this sounds good. I was living in a yurt in the woods, because I'll come to the other bit of what I lost to take me there. She said, "Dad, can you contact the British Embassy in Kathmandu?" I went into the library twice a week to get messages, and this was there from my daughter. Can I go into the library? Can I go to contact the British Embassy in Kathmandu and tell them that she's trying to make it over there from a remoter part of Nepal? Well, something in me responded, and I did, and it started a whole odyssey. I ended up. It's a long story, but I ended up going out there to try and find her. And she'd left the monastery and was in a, let's say, a critical state, but she'd given everything away. She was in that, she gave everything away and was found, because the embassy had put the word out and they helped me get out there and find my way over there. Couple of people at a hostel, these brothers found her and they took her in. And then she tried to commit suicide with a blunt razor and was in hospital out there. Well, the hospitals out there are pretty basic. Yeah, I mean, it's a hole with another hole in it for the window, and mosquitoes galore, and just a pit. But that didn't matter. What I found was a daughter I didn't recognize anymore. It wasn't her, and that was the start of a whole journey to get back. But that wasn't the end of it. She went the next year. We did all we could, the mum and I, to sort of try and pull her through, and I mean everything. In the end, there comes a point where you just have to hand it over. And she ended up in hospital, and then acquitted herself, and went off to India the next year with an American boyfriend, and she was okay for a while, and then she took herself off the meds, and she ended up in hospital. And that was it. And I had to go out. Well, I didn't have to. I chose to go out and find her again. And that was a long story. We all ended up in hospital. I wasn't ill, but we were all in a room out there in the southernmost point of India. And she wasn't. Yeah, I got her back, and then I told her that I couldn't do that again. I can't do that again. So I guess this is where it comes to the deep loss.
Yes.
Because she did go somewhere else again, to a place called La Gomera, an island with a lot of caves. And I got a phone call from someone I hadn't met. I can remember his name. Isn't that interesting? Lee. He said, I'm a social worker by day in my day job in Bristol, but I'm out here traveling for a year. And I'm in a cave with a girl called Katie. And you're her father, I believe. And she's in a bad way, but I think I can help her. We couldn't in the end. She had to get back another way. But I said to her, I can't. She was begging me to go and help her. And I said, I can't come out. I said, I can't do it. I couldn't do it. Because I was at the end of my, as Jeff would put it, the guy from Canada, at the end of my rope. He got to the end of his rope. And she said, and I sang her a song, and she said, she basically said, you're not likely to probably see me again. And I said, if so be. And I was crying profusely, and hung up. Well, no, and we hung up on each other, and then not in a bad way, just completion.
Yeah.
She did get back, but let me be honest, and her mother and I both in many ways it would have been far easier if she had died. You know, it's like a continuous death. I mean, I am totally okay with it now, but for years, it broke me to smithereens. I'm completely okay, because what it comes to is radical acceptance. I mean, radical acceptance, total. And that's just, so that was the maiden. Do you want to hear the mother and the crone?
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, that's only a touch. There's so much more in all that, but you get the sense that that was a break. Yeah, I was being, completely broken open. And a mother, good God, her mother went through.
Yeah.
Just because there's a cosmic smile in this story. I was on a Druid camp, and Katie, my daughter, she wasn't in hospital. This was after, when she came back from India, I think. Her mother and I were trying to balance and hold her. We didn't want her in hospital if it was at all possible not to. In the end, it was the only way. So we'd do 2 days each, a day or two. And she was supposed to, she'd been with me, then she went to her mum. She was there for a couple of days, and then she was supposed to get a lift back to camp where I was. But the lift fell through, but there was another lift the day after. And her mum said, I guess I'll just have to bear it. It can't get any worse. Well, that night, this is the cosmos, this is cosmic story. She burnt the house down, everything. So her mum, that's where her mum was at that time, because we weren't together anymore. Well, I had all the memories in. And Katie, so the fire brigade came at 4 a.m, and the house is gone. Her mother's lost her eyebrows and some of her hair, but got out. And Katie stands and turns to her mother and says, Mum, this is a really good lesson in non-attachment. Now, you can't make that up, and you can't argue with it, because it's true. But if you put that in a film, you'd say, you're having me on. But that's what really happened. And that's just one story in a whole plethora, which kind of, that's okay. That's the maiden bit. The mother bit was Katie's mother, and my loss of that relationship, the mother of my 4 children, through my own stupidity and lack of maturity and lack of awareness, and because I wasn't initiated as a man. I can come to that. I work with boys now in initiation work, and with men. I don't regard myself as having been initiated as a man until I was 57.
Okay.
Which says, and that's more than most men in our culture. Anyway, that completely did for me. That was the worst thing. I was living in a yurt. Briefly, I went out to Patagonia for 6 months. I volunteered to run a project, and ended up as, 77 youngsters and 33 staff. The youngsters were 18 to 25. The staff were 25 to 35. And I ended up through some weird happening. I ended up as deputy expedition leader, and that was the most demanding role on the expedition. And it took me, I needed it though, because it took me completely out of myself. I had to give everything I was to that in Patagonia that asked absolutely everything of me. But the point was, then I came back and everything had gone. My relation, my marriage, my home. It felt like my kids, although they hadn't. And then my mother died. That's the crone bit.
Oh, okay.
So that's all in the mix, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. It kind of conspired to completely shatter me into 1,000 fragments. I compared it to, if you put a jagged rock at the bottom of a waterfall, and you have waterfall on it for 1,000 years, it smooths it, rounds it like a pebble. And that's the tears I cried in that time were like an ocean, or like, yeah, it felt like an ocean. It's and these are exaggerations, but they're symbolic. So I lived in a yurt in the woods for a few years, 4.5 years. Well, I lived in there for 3 years, and I was partly in the yurt for the rest of it, and partly on a boat, and partly in a van. Liminal space, sort of fallen out of the norm, completely out of the norm. And at the end, okay, I'm trying to sort of just make this coherent in a brief. So at the end of that period, which was, it's really interesting. I have it as 7.25 years. Okay. I mean, I'm that precise on it because I remember when I came out and I thought, gosh, that's 7. It's just over 7 years, and I worked it out. 7.25 years of being in the deep pit, where the forging took place, where the tempering took place, where I was smashed into fullness. That's a weird thing to say. It's like a sword. A sword is forged by being smashed, plunged in water, in the fire, back out, smashed, in the water, in the fire. That's kind of alchemical. And just, because it's important. I begged to die in that time. I actually begged to die. And I did try to once. I mean, anyway, the point is, at the end of it, here's the thing. Here's the thing that makes it all worthwhile. So at the end of that period, which is now probably a decade or more ago, I wrote a very simple poem, which kind of sums up what happened, where I was at the end of that. I have relinquished. I now accept. I am surrendered without regret. I'm blown wide open. I'm stripped quite bare. I stand in silence, beyond despair. Reduced to nothing, I have it all. Forsake illusion, embrace the fall. So it kind of says it all in a way.
That's very, very powerful. John King, I'm sure you know him, 14 years ago. Yeah, I had an experience that completely broke me down, similar to you, JJ. But looking back, I see it as an opportunity to become who I am. And I think when any of us have those broken or breaking down experience, it's a gift to be able to recognize it, that it is an opportunity to become who you are. There are some who don't, some who rage and fight against it. Yeah. And others can say, actually, there's such learning in this. This is actually a gift. Yeah. And I think they're the blessed ones who can find the gift in that.
Yeah. Well, in a funny way, it comes out of the pain. I think I used to keep bees just before that. For 13 years, I kept bees when the kids were young. And when that process was starting of the dissolution of my life, this old beekeeper showed me, he said, because bees die when they sting humans normally, because the thickness of our skin. Wasps don't, but bees do, because they leave their guts. They fly off and they leave their guts. He said, doesn't have to be like that. Watch. And he got a bee to sting him in his thumb. And he was sort of grimacing as it pumped its venom, the toxin into his thumb. You could see it doing it. He said, watch what happens if you can stick with it. And the bee did a spiral walk, unwound its sting, and flew off. And what that told me at the time was, if I can bear to stay with it, which was the truth of what, then the bee can live. I mean, this is all, it's druid, it's story, it's my, I made some meaning out of what was happening. But what I found was the paradox is, in that pain, the trick is to open the heart Everything wants to close down and kill it. That's why alcohol, drugs, whatever, anything to take it away. And I felt that acutely too. But something in me also recognized and ultimately stuck with the bee sting, to let it happen and let it unfold and let the pain. And it kind of, it softens. It's a real softening in the end. It's incredibly painful, hard, and the heart kind of breaks into itself and it becomes a mellow, tender, loving, simple self. Yeah, a different self, not the big self. So anyway,
it's a beautiful teaching for the bees, because I've heard that story before, and I heard it from Chris Parks, and you gave him.
He got it from me. He got it from me.
And that's right. He did. He acknowledged it, and that he tried it. Now I haven't harvested any honey because I have bees. I tend to leave my bees alone. So he was telling me the next time, just wear no gloves and try it. But of course, it's a very hard thing to do, because before you're even thinking, it's like you flick off and then the bee dies. But I'm fascinated at how allowing that and staying with the pain, that you allow the bee to unscrew. I just think it's fascinating.
And that was the other thing. My bees all died around that time, and then my beekeeping fell away. But I had all the gear, and Chris and I were both living in the Willows then, and I gave him all my old gear, and that was him starting his beekeeping. And he's become, I mean, he's really an adept. Yeah. He's a real adept. He's embraced it and developed it. It's wonderful. But it's lovely. And we formed, in that time when we formed a bee grove. and we, the two of us, and we walked over to Dragon Hill at night during a lunar eclipse, which was a long way. I couldn't do it now, I don't think. Anyway, and that was the initiation of the bee grove in the Willows. So yes, where does that
to you? Philosophical Phoenix says, it gives me chills how much I relate to several aspects of JJ's story. Hitting rock bottom and then digging deeper is quite familiar to me too, and the resulting Phoenix experience also formative. Julia Foyle says, you'll never know how much I needed to hear these words of wisdom learned from the beekeeper.
Yeah.
And Gabriella, don't try it. Life is hard enough. Let's not deliberately look for pain. No, it's not deliberately looking, Gabriella.
No, it's not deliberately.
It's not looking for it. It's that when you work with it, they'll sting you through your gloves anyway. No,
you don't look for it. That's masochism.
No, you're not looking for it, but you know it's part of when you open a hive. And if you disturb a bee now my bees tend to be friendly, but you never know. We piss off people, you can easily piss off your bees, and they have
easy, and they'll soon tell you.
They'll soon tell you, and to be able to have that openness and welcome to this experience, and also trusting, because trusting, like you, of course, the guy was telling you saw it.
Yes.
And I don't know if you showed it to Chris or you told him and then he tried it.
No, I didn't show it. I told him.
And that's an act of faith. And so he's told me. And so I haven't tested it yet. But it fascinates me, that ability to be able to stay with it and just welcome, open yourself up. Because that's incredible magic.
It is magic.
Absolute magic.
But it's not looking. This is the key. It's not looking for pain. But life gives us all pain. we're all subject. I mean, in Buddhism, life is suffering. Well, it can. Well, it is, and then it isn't actually.
Yeah, because I don't go with the suffering bit myself. I mean,
I don't.
I do experience challenges and pain, and I know grief and worry and all of that stuff. And yet, right beside all of that, like when Howard died, holding grief in one hand and joy in another, and gratitude, and knowing, I'm grief stricken, but I could always say I was not unhappy, because I'm not 100% happy all the time, because I don't know what that means, but that I'm having, I suppose gratitude is more important than happiness, but holding gratitude and grief is the price to pay for love.
Yes, exactly.
And it's worth it. And being able to hold that And I think that's really, really important to be able to hold those. Then you are not a victim of whatever
Yeah.
life is happening. Having said that, maybe I haven't suffered enough. You know, I have a roof over my head. My kids are fine. I have friends. I have so much going for me, so much to be grateful for that. And then I'm just thinking of what's happening to people, you know, who don't have a home anymore, who, you know, never know when the next bomb is going to land or whatever it is, you know.
I'm not advocating that people or anyone has to lose everything. That's what kind of was somehow presented to me,
Yeah.
and that worked. Yeah. Here's the thing: when I was a teenager, I mean, this year, I wouldn't believe it. I mean, when I was a teenager, when I was 14, 15, it was the summer of love, 67, 68. It was, and anybody who remembers that time, it was like a flowering and love was in the air. It was a real time of optimism. And that was when I was coming into life in my adolescence. And here I am at the other end of my life towards senescence or whatever the word. and it's like the bookend. It's like my life through all that, and that's really through all, my life has flowered. My life, I mean, this year in particular, this year is my older age equivalent of that summer of, and it's not about, it's just living life and being blessed. So many synchronicities, so many blessings, so much magic, so many gifts, and able to gift, gifting and being gifted in that lovely resonance. And just for today, because they can all change just like that, and I'm well aware of that, I don't take any of it for granted. But this year and right now, life is incredibly rich and generous, but in a very simple way, in one way. It's not, and it's through that sort of that gradual tempering process which broke my heart open to itself in a way. And so I can only say from this place in my life, I look on it and I think, what a rich life. But yeah, and song and story and ritual, ceremony, story, all these things are really key. And for a magical life, it feels like it's a magical life, and a druidic life as well, in a way. But yeah.
Do you have any regrets?
Well, do you know what? That poem says it. I don't.
Yeah.
What did the poem say? Without regret. I wrote it. Do you know why? Because everything that's happened that I might regret has had some gift in it in a strange way. Well, also I've chosen. I mean, what is this? Is it my illusion or is it my story? That's how it feels. All that's been gifted, all the stuff that I could regret, actually I look on it and it's made me who I am, and it's given me gifts of learning, often tortuously, or you know what I mean.
Yes.
So do I have any regrets? Honestly, I would do things differently, but they're not. I wouldn't. Yes, that's not regret.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a time in my life when I would have said I had regrets, but not now. I don't feel.
It's wonderful to be able to reframe. I don't like using the word negative, but an experience that has brought pain or a wrongdoing or something you wish you hadn't done or hadn't said, or wish you had done it or had said, or whatever that is, to be able to reframe that as a learning, a gift.
Yeah.
Tempering those pointy bits on the stone at the bottom of the waterfall, those kind of things that and I suppose Druid is very much that, around reviewing our lives and making sure that when the moment it is for to pass through the veil, that we can actually say our work is done. And
it's a never end. It's not it's not sorted. It's an ongoing. It's ongoing. Right. It's never. It's not a sort of, oh gosh, yeah, there it is. It's kind of like just as fallible as the next, and always, well, who knows what challenges lie tomorrow, but just approaching it maybe in a
that's right.
I allow. Here's a song. Sorry, may I?
Go on.
It's not even a song, it's a chant. I allow, I surrender, I feel so grateful to receive. I allow, I surrender, I feel so grateful to receive. Yeah, I mean, these are mantras and songs, and there's hundreds of them, and they're a really great boon, not just to my life, but to life around me and to the earth, and to, the song is a huge part of my life. Maybe that's part of what Druidry has helped enable.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Because the bardic, it's such a key building block for all that follows. For any real spirituality, it's really interesting. It's those bardic creativity within us all.
Yeah, it's the foundation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Gabriel has a question. I don't know if this is an indiscreet question. When the voice asked about losing everything, did you feel ready? Did it feel it was a choice? When you were on the tube.
Yeah, it was a choice.
Okay.
It was a choice. Did I feel ready? I wouldn't have answered yes if I didn't, I suppose. I didn't feel ready, but once I'd answered yes, I knew, I kind of knew I was, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows?
And Philippa says, being grateful changes everything for the better. Anita says, I feel that too. I lost everything in awful circumstances. But due to this, I've gone on to meet wonderful people I would otherwise never have known. You see, we don't know what or who is around the corner, either experience, be it a challenging one or all of that, and what we can gain from it. Life is one big
mystery.
It's a mystery, and that was the first word that came into my head. And then another one came in, it's like it's an adventure. Of course, adventures are mysterious. Adventures are mysterious because the idea is you're heading off into the unknown, and
life. Yeah, go on.
And age lends to that mystery and that adventure. That
it does.
I just love being the age I am.
Yeah, me too.
And it's so reassuring being a hag.
Well, yeah, and yeah, for me too, an old fart. Because I am, and we all, but there's something about, that being at this age, it feels a gift. I'm enjoying it. Here's where I am. My mission, my aim, my charm of making, as I would call it, is to inspire as I expire. That's what I'm about, to inspire as I expire.
Very good, very good.
And the other thing that's emerged, I've said how important song is. I think song is a great medicine, and I've been singing and focusing singing groups for 15 years or so, or for many years. But for me, it's like, well, that is a spiritual practice as well, because it's like giving a gift to the earth, and the earth responds. That's my experience. I call it singing the song lines live, song lines of Avalon, song lines of Albion, which is part of what I'm about, going out and spreading song. And it kind of, it's a medicine. If I don't do it, I notice the benefits when I do, and I love singing. It's a great boon, and to others, well, sometimes.
Beautiful. So I know you have a song that you would like to sing. Do you want to do that at the very end, or do you want to do it now?
Well, it could be at the end, but you've brought it up, so let's do it now. Okay. There's all manner of strands to my life, which are fascinating and interesting, but there isn't time here. But okay, in the summer, well, in the early summer, in May, as part of this incredible year, just one window, I went on to Dartmoor with a group of people on something called Wild Song.
Okay.
what we did, we all wrote a song, or more than one. We wrote songs in this beautiful rewilding landscape. Next to it, you know, we camped out. So I slept under the stars by a wild stream. I went in every morning. Loads of bluebells, the tail end of the bluebells, but it was a lovely time and rich and beautiful. Nightjars, beavers. There were beavers in that valley, and they really re-energized the whole landscape. Anyway, we all wrote a song. This one, there was an invitation from the person or persons running it. What would the divine say to you at this point in your life? What's the message that would come through? And interestingly, in relation to what we've just been speaking, what came through was that although I felt alone in those dark times, I see now that I wasn't. That's an interesting addition to the phrase.
Say that again.
Although in the depths of my despair, I felt completely abandoned, alone, and sort of the nadir and the sort of chasm. But I look back and I see that despite it all, as you'll hear in the song, that wasn't the case. And then it developed. So it starts off with that kind of message from the cosmos to me, and then it develops into a response from me, and then it becomes a love song for the universe. And it speaks to, interestingly, it speaks to what we've been speaking about, and it's a love song.
Lovely.
See what you make of it. See if I can remember it. I know you, and I love you, and now you know it too. I've been right at your shoulder when troubles swirled and blew. I've been one with your heartbeat, and now you're one with mine. Though days seem cold and desperate, I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you, yes, I love you, yes. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you, yes, I love you, yes. I love you all the time. I've been there, and I'll be there. Whatever comes to pass, I'll hold you tight as bowstring and gentle as the grass. I'll bless you without speaking, hold you without hands, see you without looking. I know you'll understand. For I don't need the glamour, I don't need the name. What sings within my heartstrings is the product of the pain. Yes, I don't need the glamour, I don't need the name. What sings within my heartstrings is the product of the pain. And though this song sounds simple, touches deep within, I know that to be whole again, I'll gamble all I've been, of fully being human, of being fully broke, of plunging to the darkest depths to reimagine hope. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you, yes, I love you, yes, I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you, yes, I love you, yes, I love you all the time. I love you when you're smiling. I love you when you're sad. I love you when you're half asleep. I love you when you're mad. I love you when you're sorted. I love you when you're lost. I love you when you're sailing high. I'll love at any cost. So when you're bruised and battered, or lost your way in time, know that though your heart gets broken, that's the reason it's sublime. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you, yes, I love you. I love you all the time. I know you, and I love you. Now you know it too. I've been right at your shoulder when trouble swirled and blew. I've been one with your heartbeat, and now you're one with mine. Though days seem cold and desperate, I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you, yes, I love you, yes. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you all the time. I love you, yes. I love you, yes. I love you all the time.
Wow.
Kind of says it all in a way. It sums up what we talked about. And
Yes.
that came out of somewhere this year, and it reflects where I'm at with it all.
Well, lots of response. Beautiful, a song from the heart. Beautiful song. Your love shines bright. Beautiful. That is exquisitely beautiful. Thank you, JJ. You're an inspiration. So powerful. Just beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah. So in a weird way, it all comes together and makes sense, and at least for today. And tomorrow it might not, but it does for today. And yeah.
Drew DeVella says, and we love you all the time too. And David Jones wants to know, do you know of the Hour on Moor, the Celtic great song, also called the Great Melody of Life?
Not sure I do. I might, but I can't place it right this moment.
Thank you, Shane. Story. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's one song.
I might know it in a different.
Or in Moor. You're on Moor was it's that song of the earth that it's.
Yeah, I know some Gaelic songs and some Gaelic prayers, which, yeah, they speak deeply to me.
You're talking about the Scots Gaelic, yeah.
Sorry?
You're talking about Scots Gaelic?
So I'm talking Scots Gaelic, yeah. My dad was Scots as well. He wasn't from the Western Isles, but there's something in that language, in the Scots Gaelic, and I believe in the Irish too, which is much more than a functional language. There's a poetic sort of and a spiritual dimension. Like the word fon, I think in Gaelic means not just a song, but it's a way of being and a play and a relationship with the earth. It's all these different levels, and it's like Sanskrit as well. It's got this multi-dimensional. It's a poetry. It's a language of love. Yeah, it's probably why we're in a mess if we're not. Yeah, we got one word for love, and Sanskrit has 92 or something. Who knows? Anyway, yeah.
In we've gra is love in Irish, but we have many endearments, many words for you are my love. Either you are, you're the pulse of my heart. All sorts of words to mean as an endearment, which is very rich.
Yeah, I love the Irish language. Yeah, it's got that. Yeah, different dimensions to it. Lovely ways of expressing. I'll tell you what I loved when I was in Ireland. I mean, I'm not sure if it's true now. You're driving along and it says in the road slow, and then you go around the corner and it says slower. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things like that, little quirks. Smiley, yeah, make me, well, they bring a smile to your heart.
So, given, because we're coming to the end of our time now, but
sure.
Given the world as it is, one concern you have about the world at the moment?
One concern.
Yeah,
we have. I'll tell you, and it relates to Druidry. There's an old maxim in the Druidic path: truth against the world, truth against the world. And I mean, it's easily misrepresented, but it's kind of, I think it's the lack of willingness to allow voices to shed light on potential truths, the way I see it is, I'm going to draw here's my old trusty staff at this point, Lancelot, lovely,
Right.
beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, so at the center of if we have around us a circle of, let's for the sake of this sort of imagination, a circle of true elders or wisdom keepers or whatever, or even not, it can be any circle. And we go around and we let everyone have the talking stick or whatever and speak their truth. And as we go around, I find that everyone has a piece of the jigsaw or a piece of the heart, and I listen and I learn and I speak, and maybe others maybe if I pick up a different aspect, but I listen and I learn. And what I feel has happened is that a good part of that circle has been cut out of the dialogue, maybe a third, maybe a half. But certainly a substantial number of those that would speak are being denied the opportunity, in my estimation. And I think that leads to massive damage. There's many things.
Can you give me a context for that? So are you talking about in world generally, or are you talking about within Druidry?
No, I'm talking about it in the world generally.
Oh, in the world.
I'm talking about it in the culture we live in now. There's what did Hannah Arendt say? She said, if you live in a culture where something can't be spoken of, you're already living in a tyranny.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I believe that to be where we are. Yeah. And somewhere in there, love gets lost, which is why I choose that. I could choose any number of sort of issues, but that's one that kind of comes to the core for me, because love and truth are finally matched somewhere in there for me somehow. So yeah, that's one. I could have answered it any number of ways, but that's what came up for me.
Yeah. It strikes me as sad that there is that lack of willingness to hear opinions that differ to your own.
Yeah.
That somehow, if you say something that I don't agree with, that it's something that I'm now hurt by it, rather than I'm uncomfortable maybe with your opinion.
Yeah.
But being uncomfortable doesn't mean it's a wrong opinion, and it's about being able to sit with that. Just, when you were describing all that you lost and those experiences, and being able to sit with it, or sitting with the bee sting, and to be able to sit with a point of view that differs completely to yours.
Yeah.
To stay with that and see.
Yeah.
What might come from that. That's not easy, because there's so much outrage and I'm offended by whatever, that to be able to sit with that and see what can come from it. It's not the same as tolerating it and taking, I'm not talking about accepting abuse. I'm not talking about that. But
no.
Somebody expresses a view that you don't agree with or makes you uncomfortable, to sit with it and see what might come from that for yourself. And I know that's challenging, because I think if we can sit with that, we are less likely to be reactive, and not act, and less likely to act out against others. But also, we're not churning up ourselves, because we can, with our outrage, we can just wind that around and like have a volcano within us. It's about being able to hear that and sit with it and see what can come from it.
And it's also, when it's in circle, it comes into some sort of balance. A sort of, some outlier might actually yield some deep insight. Some outlier might be pure madness. But put it in the mix, and the circle can come to its own.
That's right.
Overview. Whereas take those out, and I lose the ability to express the whole or to honor the whole. Anyway, that's
because if you were doing a brainstorming session, they say throw everything, whatever crazy idea, everything goes up on the flip chart. You just put it into the pot, and it's about allowing that and seeing what gem can come from this crazy mix of. And it's Dan says, unfortunately, most conversations originate from a position of I want to win rather than listening to what is being said. The conversation is picked apart and weaponized from the start instead of listening from a place of understanding and kinship. And I think that is really, really important when you're talking about in a listening circle, that it's coming from a place of understanding, or if there is an understanding, a desire to understand and a desire for kinship. I mean, I come from a family where we were always arguing. I don't know what family doesn't. So it's like arguments happen and they knock us out of complacency. They make us really uncomfortable. It can really, really piss us off. But for that desire to understand, and I think unless we do that, we're going to constantly always be offended and therefore attack or feeling victimized. And that's an awful place to be coming from. It's a really painful place, a really hard place. So to being able to see the gift in whatever it is.
Yeah. So in the moment, here's a brief chant comes up. Teach me how to listen. Teach me how to be. Teach me how to walk upon the earth. Oh, my heart is here. Oh, my heart is here. Oh, my heart is here to heal. Yeah, that's it. It's nice. So it's good when you sing that repeatedly for over a period of time. But teach me how to listen. Teach me how to be. Teach me how to walk upon the earth. Yeah, it's relating that discussion, what we shared to Druidry and to something deeper.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope? Most things these days. Strangely, why have I said most things? That's a kind of bizarre answer. It gives me hope that hope exists. What gives me hope? The fact that love can never die, not ultimately, for one. That there is magic, that there is virtue, going back to the quest for virtue. Yeah, there's always a challenge in virtue. What gives me hope? The power of the human spirit, and more than that, the resilience of the natural world left to itself to recover, to heal. What gives me hope? Coming together in circle, singing, song, ritual, story, ceremony, prayer. Any number of things, but you get the idea.
I do. That is beautiful. So thank you. And so much of what you've said tonight in our conversation has resonated with me, and certainly with our viewers. My final question is, what is your favorite season and what is your favorite ceremony to mark the Wheel of the Year?
Well, we're on the verge of Samhain, so it's got to be where I am in the moment. Samhain's really, it's full moon coming up, isn't it? Full moon. I was out earlier just singing to the moon, and it's coinciding pretty much with Samhain. I do love Samhain. I love honouring the ancestors, and I think that's something as a society and as a culture we've neglected at our cost. So I do love that. Truly, I love that. I'm off to Wildways and the Druid camp with
for Samhain.
For Samhain, and that's one of. Yeah, I really love that. The depth of it. And then I really love winter solstice and that stillness and the quietude right in the depths of the darkness and the rebirth. Yeah, that moment of the birth of the sun again. I love Imulk with Bridget. Absolutely love that whole thing. The triple aspect of the goddess. Well, I could go on, all of them, but yeah, all of them these days, more and more every moment. Maybe because, you know, as drawing towards, yeah, the autumn and the closure in one's own life, and none of us know when that will be, but appreciating each of those ceremonies and seasons, because there won't be that many of them. There won't be that many more in my life, however long I live, in a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're finite, even when I'm young. But when I was younger, like, yeah, with gay abandon, we sort of throw ourselves into life and think we're immortal and we'll live forever, or something like that. But with some humility and perspective on life, the gratitude grows. Yeah, the gratitude grows, and so I'm loving Samhain imminent and here.
It's wonderful. JJ, thank you so much. This has been a really, really wonderful and interesting conversation, as I knew it would. And I just thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I just let you say goodbye to everybody, or good night.
Yeah, and can I thank you, Eimear, because you go to a lot of that, takes dedication and effort to set this up every week, and you really, it's a devotional, you know, service. But and I know you get benefit from it, but you give a lot. You just credit. Thank you. And thanks everyone. Lots of love. All those who there are friends on here, John and Lynn up in Ardnamurch, and faithful, right. And always there. Francis over in Finland, and many others. Gabriella and Pat, and God knows who else on there. I can't see the names, but lots of love.
Anyway, I'll let you go back and we can look at when I've gone off air, we can look at the comments. Okay, so I'll let you say good night, and then I'll
thank you.
Good night to everybody then.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for joining us this evening, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. So I look forward to seeing you next week for another chat. And then on the 4th of November, we will have our online Samhain ceremony at 7 p.m. UK time. So we've put the notice up on our social media. So I wish you all the best, you know, good night, good morning, good afternoon, or if you're listening to or watching a recording of this chat. So until we meet again, slán go fóill.